Hey folks, it's Echo here. For the fourth dev stream, the programmers joined us to talk about some of the key features they've been working on. First up was Robert DeShong talking about the changes to random world generation. First update is a massive increase in generation speed. I know most of us are used to going and, making a pot of coffee, doing the laundry, and then coming back and hopefully your world was done. That is no longer the case. They showed us two examples. Here's one of a 6K world completing in 1 minute. And then they showed us a 10K world generating in just over 2 minutes. They've also made some updates to the preview. When set to high quality, you can actually fully swoop down in between the buildings as if you were in the game, and more of a black and white version, but still a lot more detailed than what we had in the past. Additionally, to streamline things, they've added a button in the bottom right where you can just click to create a new game using the world that you just created. Once you're in your new random gen world, you'll notice that the roads around mountains and hillsides are a lot better formed. You'll also see that they typically will lead to POIs that are out in the wilderness, adding a lot more in the in-between space of maps. Along those lines, Robert also noted we would see more traders on the map, and you would never be more than 1.5 kilometers away from a trader. Next up, Steve Dudek took over to talk about zombie dismemberment. This was added in Alpha 20, but in a fairly limited form. They've enhanced this now, so you actually have a different visual effect if you dismember with a bladed weapon versus a blunt weapon. So here, Lathan will throw down the hammer, and then we'll see the difference. On the left side, you see the limb that was severed with the bladed weapon, and on the right, you see the hammer. Anything severed with a blunt weapon will leave you with some jiggly tech like this. Animations have also been updated such that blades and blunt weapons actually have different animations. There's also creative new ways for zombies to lose their heads, whether you're into shotguns or sledgehammers. Explosives also now have a chance to dismember, whether it be pipe bombs or explosive crossbow bolts or mines or even rocket launchers. Next, they jumped into vehicles, and you can see with a bicycle just running over a businessman zombie here did over 60 points of damage, which is pretty crazy. And they've also added visual cues onto the vehicles to show that they're damaged. You can see the bike is throwing sparks as he's pedaling, and then he runs into the wall a few times here, and the bike weirdly starts smoking, and then eventually the chain actually comes off the bike. The mini bike has a slightly different animation with smoke coming out of it first, and then ultimately lighting on fire. The 4x4 has been transformed into a mobile death machine, but unfortunately it is made out of tinfoil. That small encounter there with the zombies took 25% of the health out of it. Boom, there's 10% gone again. Boom, we hit a sign that's 1%. I was actually an advocate of the vehicles taking more damage, but I think this might be a bit overkill. Next, Sean walked us through some changes to reflections, and it really is good. I mean, it looks fantastic. The ambiance of the light and how it bounces off of walls is pretty stunning. I will say also, I was glad to see that they walked into DeShong Tower and that Lathan was willing to turn on his frames, but this is disturbing for me, quite honestly. I don't recall which GPU he has in this rig, but he's running a 7950X and 32 gigs of RAM, and just hovering in the 30s. Now, I know that Lathan is running this at 4K and with a lot of ultra settings, but I was hoping that with all the optimizations and changes to Windows, for example, that we would have been seeing higher frame rates here. When asked in chat, we got kind of the same answer we always get, which is he's streaming and he's playing the game, and the stream takes away a lot of the resources, but he's also using the NVENC coder, so it shouldn't really be taking that much away. I know that following the streamer weekend, this will be one of the areas I'll try to dive in and report back to everyone on. Swimming has gotten a pretty significant overhaul. The actual visuals of it aren't much different, but the speed increase is noticeable. Additionally, stamina usage has changed a lot. Even when you're swimming normally without sprinting, that's going to consume stamina, and then sprinting will consume a considerable amount. Additionally, Sean talked about the concept of momentum and drag. When you're swimming, it's going to feel a lot different than walking on land. As you start moving, you'll pick up momentum and you'll be able to move even faster. Then also when you stop, you don't immediately stop. You'll kind of keep floating in the same direction that you were heading. The Forge, in addition to the just overall graphical update, also got a nice little update associated with tools. So as you add in the bellows and the anvil and the crucible, you'll actually see them display on the exterior of the model. There's also plans to do this for the campfire, but we're not sure that's going to make it into Alpha 21. For all the crafting stations, they're working on making it more obvious to know if something is actually crafting currently. For the workbench, you can see once he actually starts crafting that the light turns on, and then when he stops the crafting, the light goes off. Weapon scopes have been updated so that when you're zooming in and out, you can use the mouse wheel, and they've smoothed that out to have a better transition. You'll need to be a little bit more careful when hunting now because zombies can actually eat animals. So there's a chance as they come across one of your fallen prey here that they will just nom 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 them. And with each bite, they do more damage to it, so that means less meat for you. And if they do enough damage to destroy it, you will lose the animal entirely. Explosions have gotten a physics upgrade. Now, granted, he's using a dev grenade that they created more for testing, but you still get the idea of the explosion actually pushing the blocks away from the blast area. So for those of you who like to make things go boom, this should be amusing. The last thing that Sean showed off was the new terrain tool updates. And for most people, this probably isn't a big deal, but for me, as someone who enjoys working in the prefab editor, making horde bases and POIs, this is really nice. They changed the level of granularity that you can grow and shrink things. So this has a lot of potential for some really nice terraforming around bases. Lastly, Lathan covered the Twitch integration and the changes that are coming with Alpha 21. It's got a lot of rich features that are fun to engage the community. I've been part of the integration testing team for the Pun Pimps, so really recommend this if you haven't tried it, but I'm not going to get into that on this video. Hey folks, so that was the last of the dev streams. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have, consider subscribing so that you can join me as we jump in for Alpha 21 Streamer Weekend and explore things together. Also, a huge thanks to my patrons over here. Thanks so much for all the support. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Be good.